Well, good morning. I'm Wayne Berry, and joining me at a remote location is Harry McIntosh, Sales Coaching Director for Top Gun Business Academy. Good morning, Harry.
Hello, Wayne. How are you? And a very good morning to you too.
Yeah, terrific. Hey, Harry, just to welcome everyone who's joining us from different parts of the country and of the world right now. In Australia, it is 8 o'clock Australian Daylight Saving Time. In Western Australia, it's 5 a.m., very early in the morning over there. In New Zealand, our friends across the Tasman, 10 a.m., welcome to you. In South Australia Central Time, it is 7:30 a.m. Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Hong Kong, we do have some people joining us up there this morning where it is a bright and early 5 a.m. In London, it is Sunday, and it is 10 p.m. Los Angeles in the United States. It is also Sunday at 2 p.m. Chicago. It is 4 p.m. New York. It is 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So welcome to you all. Harry, we've got quite a few questions here this morning to go through. We'll stick as much as we can to 30 minutes as we always do because we are privileged to join people's sales meetings, and we try to keep it to a tight 30-minute format to fit in with those meetings now. So a growing group watching this. Also, if you know people who should be watching this, you may care to pass along the link. Our next broadcast will in fact be on Monday fortnight at the same time, same channel, so to speak. So Harry, looking at the list of questions here, I've got one here from Rick Mansley, who says, and good morning to you, Rick, if you're watching us in New South Wales. Rick says, when I follow up a quote, I always struggle to start the conversation and also worry that I'm being a bit pushy. What's the best way to start a call? How do I know if the customer's getting annoyed with me for calling them? Good question. Now, I know that Rick Mansley is one of your clients, Harry, so you might like to give off the answer to that.
Thanks, Wayne. Yes, my thinking on that one is that there are a couple of really good reasons for why the higher level executive contact, because Rick is the GM of the business and has a sales team that does report to him, why it makes an enormous amount of sense. Having the executive level contact gives a second point of reference, and you can address it at a business level, which is the really important thing. The quote itself is going to be specifically outlining the points of detail around what it is that is being quoted, product, services, or whatever the outcome is going to be. Where at the business level, you can make sure that everything is happening around the quote that supports the business, and you get the executive level feeling to make sure that that's going. So my thinking around that is to actually do the follow-up in terms of ensuring the level of satisfaction, and it's just a quick call to check that everything's on track for you, that the quote's been received, that my team are doing the right job, and that your team are getting the level of service that you're after. And I have found in the past that when I've been in that situation and had to put that call in, it takes away the stress because I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm checking on their level of satisfaction and comfort and happiness. And it opens the door then for them to say, look, the guys are pretty good. Everything's working okay. And that's worked for me in the past, Wayne. So that's probably the suggestion I would have for Rick.
Look, I agree with you, Harry. I think you're right there. It's a matter of checking on customer satisfaction, following up on the quote. Now, of course, some of our viewers here this morning will in fact be doing their own follow-ups on quotes rather than getting a senior management person to follow up each time. So a little bit of advice around that, I guess. Firstly, if you've developed some kind of relationship, you've built some trust, you've developed some rapport beforehand, you will be greeted generally in a warm way when you follow up. It's when you have a very short conversation and you're still in what I call product peddler mode, and our viewers may be aware that I often speak about the 5 generations of salespeople: the product flogger, the order taker, the quote giver being generations 1, 2, and 3, generation 4 being the problem solver, generation 5 being the friend in the business. Now, we want to be in that generation 4, generation 5, the problem solver. And if you're simply a quote giver and order taker, a product flogger, then there's very little rapport built, because all you're doing is being responsive rather than being proactive when somebody makes an inquiry. If somebody makes an inquiry and you say, yes, absolutely, yeah, what do you want? Yep, fine, all right, I'll get a quote off to you, then you zap off a quote by email. Well, you've built no rapport. You've built no trust. I mean, why would the person trust your quote? You don't understand their situation and needs. You haven't taken any time to understand their situation and needs by asking good questions. And when we ask questions, we can't help but build rapport with somebody. Of course, we teach this, and in our Top Gun program, this is Module 3, how to become a doctor of sales, true consultative sales strategies. And it really is all about asking questions, building that trust, building that rapport, and when you then go back to the person, you're then going back and saying, hey, John, how are you? And you can call them John or Harry or Fred or Smith or Martha or whoever it might be, because you've built the rapport previously. Hey, it's Wayne Berry here from XYZ Company. Just phoning to check that you did get that email through from me. I like to be absolutely certain that they get through when I send them. And by the way, something I just thought about that I'd like to add to the information that I gave you. So the warmth is coming from you. It's courtesy. You're phoning to check that they got the email and the quote through. And please, please, please stop giving quotes. No more quotes. Recommendations, please. Don't even talk in terms of quotes. I'll send you a quote. No, 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 don't send a quote. I will send you our recommendations. Recommendations stand aside from quotes. Recommendations, of course, are not just price. Recommendations are for a solution rather than simply a price. And can I suggest, have something extra. When you're phoning to follow up a quote, have something extra that you're in fact phoning with. So don't just phone to say, did you get the email? It's just phoning to check that you did receive that email. And by the way, there was an extra idea I had that I thought could be of value to you. Have you got a moment that I can just explain that to you? Oh, by the way, do you have our recommendations in front of you there? See, if you can get them interacting and they have the recommendations in front of you, in front of them, and you're going to give them some extra ideas, it makes sense. Then you can now go through your recommendations over the phone because they have that document in front of them or on their screen. Now you're in a situation where you can start effectively selling or explaining, which should be persuasive and is selling, the recommendations that you put forward to them. So how do you know if they're getting annoyed with you? I guess they might hang up, but that should not be the case. It is amazing. I did have another question from somebody I'm coaching over the weekend who says that they're having some difficulty with clients who get a little bit annoyed with them and refuse to give them answer their questions. What should he do? He hasn't yet done Module 3 on consultative selling and how to use a question software to get into that comfortable conversation with his prospect yet. So that's coming up. But it is to do with how we seek permission to ask the questions and then how we go about asking the questions in a thorough, professional way with a certain sequence rather than a random collection of questions, and it does inspire confidence in people. So those would be my thoughts, Rick, regarding how to best follow up a quote. It's all to do with the rapport and trust that you built and what you've done before sending up the quote. So often, I'm sure you'd agree with this too, Harry, that when we get questions from salespeople, I'm having a problem with such and such, I'm having a problem closing, I'm having a problem with handling objections, I'm having a problem with confirming the transaction. It's normally symptomatic. That's not the problem. It's symptomatic of something that hasn't been done earlier in the process that's created that problem situation. So often we get calls from people who say, please come and talk at our sales conference. Oh yes, what would you like to talk about? Closing the sale. Frankly, look, I can show people how to close the sale in 10 minutes, but if you haven't done all of the things properly up to that point, any words I may give you on how to ask for the order is going to literally fall on deaf ears in many cases with a prospect because they're not ready to do that. And the real secret of knowing, of closing, is knowing when to close, not how to close. So that's good. Harry, I've got another one here from Travis Clayton. who I was speaking to over the weekend, coaching on the weekend, I was saying, Travis, do you realise you're a star? You keep asking lots of questions, and we get comments about you on our Q&As. Travis says, look, I've been working with the prospect for a few months for her workwear and gloves. Travis is in the safety equipment and clothing business. I've been able to get her to agree verbally to use the system, and they have an online system for ordering that makes it easier for the client. He says, I've been able to get them to agree verbally to use the system and also agree that our pricing was good. When I drop in to see her, though, I see that there's often new orders that have been delivered by our competition. She always says she's sorry and she'll get around to changing the ordering system, but says that she's just been too busy doing what she's been doing, and the old way is easier. She says that I should get around to changing my procedure when I have some time around Christmas. And as we record this, it is a few months before Christmas. What should I do? What would you suggest, as Clayton Travis Clayton from New South Wales? I've got some thoughts on that, Harry, but before I blast off, what are your thoughts?
Oh, thanks for that one. This one can be a little tricky, but it's something that indicates that he hasn't found the right point yet that makes it absolutely critical for her to make the change. Now, when that type of a scenario happens, he can either help out by helping to make the changes, or by understanding a little bit more around what's going on. And so there are other issues which are taking up her priorities at that point in time. So it's actually quite tricky. It probably gets back to asking a few more of the questions, understanding a little bit more, using the trust in the relationship. Now, if she has the position and the authority and the okay to make the changes to the system, that's great. But if she's not someone that can make the changes to the system, I would suggest that Travis may need to expand the points of contact and see whether he can get assistance from others to help drive that process forward. Because if there is a financial advantage or a business advantage that he can offer, he needs to be raising it to people that are going to see the value and want to take advantage of it now. So it's probably to expand the network without doing anything to harm his relationship with the person, but he has to be seen as offering her some help to get there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, look, that makes perfect sense, Harry. And what I was thinking about is you're absolutely right. There is not the sense of urgency created yet to have her take the few minutes or hours or whatever it might take. I would imagine it's a few minutes to change the ordering system. It's probably something like, opening a web page and having that as your preference as to when you're ordering in future. But yeah, she hasn't got approval from somebody to do that. So my thought is incentivize it in some way. Come up with some kind of a special offer, even if you're losing on this one, some special reason why she should take action and do it now. So, it could be, by the way, I know that you ordered this particular item. I am authorised to offer you a very special rate on this one. However, it must be ordered through our new ordering system. Are you able to do that? It is well worth taking advantage of this situation. So, in other words, give us some incentive for making the switch now, because people are a little bit lazy. Once they've made the switch, it's easy to stick with what you're doing, and once switched across, they may well stay there. Now, here's the extra thought. It seems to me that this is a procrastinator that Travis is dealing with. She's saying, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Yeah. So if he, in fact, asks her, will she do it, and she agrees to it, and often prospects do this, don't they? They say, yes, look, I'm going to do that, and they don't. This is where it gets a little bit cheeky, but it uses the law of psychological reciprocity. Once she says, yes, I am going to do it by such and such a date, send a gift. Send a gift with a little note. And by the way, this gift need only be $30 or $40, a little wine pack. And Australia Post, even or at various stores, you can buy these wine packs even in a wooden box. Harry, you and I send them out to some clients to congratulate them at various parts of the training program, and they're $30, $40, $50, $10 for postage, so you got like $40 or $50 maybe invested in this gift, and it's a wine pack, beautiful wine with maybe a few accessories in the box, beautifully wrapped, with a note, and the note is what's important. it says Mary or Joanna, whoever it might be, just wanted to thank you for agreeing to switch your order system across to us. Looking forward to serving you. Now, picture yourself. You've received this gift. It's thanking you for taking some action. If you haven't taken the action, 9 times out of 10, the person receiving that gift will now take the action because they feel obliged to. The law of psychological reciprocity, as you know, Harry, says, when I extend a kindness or consideration to you, you are at an unconscious level obliged to extend a similar kindness or consideration back. Cut short, what that means is what you put out is what you get back. So once you send somebody a gift, they feel very, very obliged. Oh, yeah, I did say I would make that switch. I better do it straight away. Now, is that likely to, in 100% of the cases, work? No. But, hey, I reckon in around about 90% of the cases it will. It will work extremely well, and you kick off your new relationship in a really positive way. So I hope that's helpful to you, Travis. And no doubt we will be speaking again, as we often do. Travis is one of these really enthusiastic people that do what we ask them to do, and that is make contact with us regularly with questions. And we just love that. And we love seeing the success stories coming from our graduates and people on our programs around Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia, in fact, around the world now. I've got one here from Corey Peterson. Corey will be, I think, about probably 4 or 5 months into our program now, on our 12-month Top Gun Sales Coaching program. Corey is in Bayswater in Victoria in Australia. Corey says, what do you think is the best way to conduct a presentation when it's to a group of construction project managers? The product has almost become a commodity now. Corey's company is involved in providing cabling and all sorts of industrial electric switches and all of that kind of things. He says the product's almost become a commodity. If the quality is the same as the opposition and they're very price driven in the market, should you go for a general Q&A with them or some sort of PowerPoint type scenario, which personally I find very boring and dictates the direction of the meeting so much. What are your thoughts on that one, Harry? Because I know you've done a lot of selling over the years, industrial selling, selling of computer systems, real high-end stuff. You are grouping, presenting to groups of people.
Yep, Wayne, this one's neat actually. My son works in a very similar industry, and we were having a talk about this, about the products and the services and that. And one of the things that comes across absolutely critically when the product itself is very similar is the quality of the service and the relationship you've got with the person. We teach in the program that the biggest unique value that you've got in your sales process is you. And that is so true, that if you understand the needs of the client and you understand what drives them and what motivates them, you ensure that they get that level of service. Now, when you are doing a presentation, and it's all about the same sort of stuff, talk about the unique information that you know about their business, about how critical it is and how you've moved heaven and earth to get the material on site, on time, so that there was never a delay, and that you understand the urgencies for these production people about what it is that would happen to them if something was delayed or not. Now, when people are selling a commodity, it becomes too easy for that commodity to be, oh, let's just let that roll, when there are unique and specific requirements that come up. And so the thought that I've got, which actually comes from my son, is that he looks for the person that understands what he's doing and why he's doing it really, really well. And I've worked with that all my life in terms of being different to the customers I've got. Use your trust, use the doctor of sales, build trust and rapport with your customer. Try not to let them think that you think of it just as a commodity, that they are an important part of your business process. But by making them feel special, they will give that back to you. It touches a little bit on what you were talking about just a second ago, about the law of psychological reciprocity. If you make them feel good about themselves, they'll like you for that, and they'll help you get to where you want to go. So does that cover that one, Wayne?
Look, I think it does, Harry.
What's your thoughts?
Again, I think you're getting back to exactly what we so often teach, and that is using true consultative selling. If you're in a market where it's very much a commodity, the only difference you have is you. That is the only difference that you will often have is you. Why should they do business with your company? Because of you, because of the high level of service that you will provide. Yeah, look, I like to avoid PowerPoint presentations as much as possible. Make them live, make them relevant. If you have asked appropriate questions, and of course we cover this in module number 6 on how to make a powerful sales presentation, the structure of a sales presentation. By the way, the reason I mention these modules is that we sometimes get inquiries from people afterwards who say, look, could I know more about that module 6 on how to conduct a powerful sales presentation? Harry and myself, our other sales coaches, would be delighted to walk you through that, give you information on that part of the program. So module 6. When we talk about structuring the presentation, I think you'd find that rather useful. Part of what you're doing in structuring the presentation should be to check off with them right at the outset the objectives, and that is the objectives of the solution that you are about to offer. And those objectives should come from the questions that you've asked to understand their unique situation, because even though it may well be fairly much a commodity product, they have a unique situation, they have unique needs. And if you've asked those questions properly that we teach in Module 3 on diagnosis questions, you've gotten beyond the logical needs that they have into the psychological, right brain, emotional needs that they have, and those needs go beyond the commodity. It could be reliability, it could be promptness of service, it could be as simple as if something goes wrong, the client knows that they can pick up the phone and call you immediately. It doesn't matter whether it's Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, you will answer and you will get the client across to you. So using that kind of structure in a presentation, happy to provide you more information on how to structure it that way, but that would be a part of it. Also, commitment to service coming from your CEO down. Now, if in fact they, and you won't want to do this every time, and it may not be the CEO, it could be your national sales manager or somebody senior to you, if they ask you to use a PowerPoint presentation, or you are using a PowerPoint presentation, you may care to pre-record a message from your national sales manager, CEO, national customer service manager, whoever it might be, a personal message that's so easily recorded on a computer these days. Good morning, gentlemen. Corey has explained that we'll be doing business with you soon. I just wanted to assure you from the most senior management level in this company that you can call me personally if you have any challenges at all. We are 100% committed to providing you with on-time service, high quality, blah, 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 blah. So a personal message from someone senior in your company. Now, I've actually seen some of our clients do this, and people in a group go, wow, you know, like, this person has taken the time to actually speak to the person about doing business with us, and this senior person in the organization has taken the trouble of recording that message. The other step up from that is, if you have internet connection using a PowerPoint presentation, you can switch it across via Skype or one of the other video conferencing and actually introduce them to the customer service team or your technical people who will be doing the backup, or the CEO in their office. And I'll tell you, that is impressive. Are you going to stand out from your competition? You bet your bottom dollar you will, because you've taken that extra time to do that extra little thing differently and uniquely. And you know, people, it's all about people. The business is about people. It's about relationships. It's about trust. And you know, what better way to do that than go way beyond what is expected of you? And it only takes a few minutes, and it's unique, and it's well worth doing.
I've got one last point on that one. If you are in a situation where you do have to use the PowerPoint presentation because it's a standard inside the company, think about the message you're giving. We teach also in the presentation module a thing called a power selling statement. When you put a message up on a PowerPoint presentation, summarize it as bullet points or facts, and then relate it back to what the value back to that customer is in terms of what they are getting. The difference it makes is that you then have the opportunity to speak about the message that you're putting on that PowerPoint screen, and you're relating it uniquely back to them rather than it just being a fact about a commodity or a product. And if you've understood the issues and you've done the right disturbing questions and the right doctor of sales questions, you will know how to touch the responses that will trigger the right feelings back from it. But a power selling statement is really cool, where you make your fact and then you explain what that fact is because of, And then when you go down that line, which means to you, and you relate it specifically back to the customer. And then you can even take it to the next extent of saying, and the real value to you is. Now, they can be very powerful words that in the right context, you can then use that to ask them if they would like to go ahead. In your opinion, do you feel you would like to? And you go from there. But that's also part of what it is we teach. So if you do have to give a PowerPoint presentation, you can make it unique and specific, which is going to give it your flavour as well, which can be very important.
Yeah, Harry, what you're saying there is the words matter.
Exactly.
We talk about structure. Our Top Gun selling system is exactly that. It's a system. It is a highly structured system. Most salespeople don't have a selling system. They have a haphazard approach to the whole sales process. We teach a structured system, a structured approach where words matter. And if you change the words, you change the meaning. So our power selling statements is a way of structuring a statement so it is incredibly powerful. Similarly, our stair-step method for handling objections. Most salespeople get an objection, they don't quite know what to do. They don't have an automatic response to it. But our graduates, of course, they have an automatic response. They follow that stair-step method for handling objections where the words matter. Change the words, you change the meaning, you change the outcome. And of course, when we practice, drill, and rehearse and do role plays, as we do as sales coaches when we video conference with sales teams, we keep taking them back to do not change the words. And of course, all of our high achievers, they are in fact using the system, using the words, and the words count for a lot. Harry, I think we may have time for just one more question here.
Yep, sure.
It's actually been held over a couple of weeks from Nathan Plymouth in London in the United Kingdom, where it's still Sunday. Nathan, thank you for your patience. We've held this for a little while because we have other ones that come up. We've got quite a list. Nathan says, look, sometimes I find myself losing the plot. When I'm not doing well and not being successful, I find that I'm running out of energy by early afternoon and I'm becoming quite negative. I start to feel like I cannot be successful ever again, like I've been in the past. Any suggestions, Wayne? So I guess what Nathan's saying there is he feels he's running out of energy sometimes by mid-afternoon. He's starting to become a little bit negative. He's been successful in the past from what I hear, but he's sometimes, starting to feel that was the past and maybe things have changed and maybe he'll never be successful again. So I guess this is a question of motivation. Any thoughts, Harry? Because, it is important, attitude and motivation, isn't it? We know and we teach that 80% of our success in life comes from our attitude. Yeah, the skills are really important and we teach the skills, but attitude and motivation is 80% of our success in life. And the question is, I guess, how do I maintain my attitude at a great positive level and stay motivated?
Wayne, that's a really good question, and we do get that a lot. I remember a couple of years ago we had a guy who came in from the building trade who'd been a very successful salesman. He'd had 20 plus years of doing really good sales, but he said to me that he'd lost his fire, he'd lost his mojo, he was tired, and his sales had started to slump down a bit. And when he had the chance to go back and refresh the skills and refresh the techniques that he was doing, and that was the injection he needed, which gave him back the passion, and his sales really, really took off. Now, if we address it a little bit more specifically, we gave him the recharge by getting him back in touch with some of the successful customers he'd spoken to. And they gave him a little bit of a buzz about why they loved the work that he'd done, about what he did that was different from the others. When he started to go back and look at the things that he had been doing, he'd realized that he'd stopped doing the things that had made him successful. And that all he needed was a refresher and a reminder and some constant focus from people like you and me to help get him back on the bike again. And he started to take off, and that actually led him to having a really positive effect on others in his team and others in the company, because they couldn't understand what had changed in him, because his results started to go through the roof. And that led to us actually taking on coaching, I think, another 20 to 30 of the people inside that company, and the results have actually spoken for themselves.
Yeah.
But it's also the fact that we got into the detail level steps about, yes, the positive mental attitude is absolutely critical. The physical side of his personality needed some help as well. Oh, it's not his personality, but his physical side. His energy was down because he'd got lazy in himself. He wasn't out going for walks. He wasn't doing any exercise. He was eating the wrong foods. He was enjoying himself a little bit too much, and that had started to detract. He was tired. He wasn't getting the right amount of sleep. And it's all a spiral and a cycle. When we gave him the tips and the skills and the techniques for how he can get back out of that model, the difference in him was remarkable. I see this from a bunch of guys. The people that we're coaching, the ones that really embrace the concepts and get the massive changes are the ones that look after themselves physically as well as mentally. They're very happy to learn the skills, they're very happy to learn the techniques that we're coaching them about, but they also put in the effort to be fitter, healthier, they manage their diet. They set up little games inside their organisations if there's more than one or two people doing the role, where they say, who can lose five pounds or 2 kilos over the next 2 weeks? And so they're focused. They've got little tricks and it's not a trick, but it's little focuses along the way that give them success points. And that leads them then, with our guidance, to talk about, get a couple of little success points that you can do along the way, which is the winning edge. It's just little tiny improvements in areas and see how you feel. Wayne, you often talk about when people make a commitment to do something, if they don't do it, they feel bad. And, it just eats away at their ability then to continue to be achieving. But when they set a little goal and they go out of their way and achieve it, the high they get motivates and drives them to do more. And so it's really important when you're starting to feel yourself losing the plot to actually do the things that you know will give you the lift. Call up your last really happy customer and just put in a quick follow-up call just to say hi and see how they're going. It's amazing how the boost that can do. Possibly even just take a second away to pull out your goals or the plan for why it is that you're doing stuff. Refresh in your mind the focus and the importance of what it is you're doing. And realize that everybody goes through cycles of being highly motivated and then having to work on it themselves as well. When you know the triggers and you can put into play the actions that are going to help you get better and do the right things, all of a sudden you'll have a whole different approach to this sort of thing.
Look, you're absolutely right, Harry. A number of points I'll quickly touch on there because I'm conscious of time. We're reaching the end of the time here. However, you're right. We've identified there are 10 key characteristics of all high-performing salespeople. And what Harry's talking about there is what we call developing the winning edge. And that is becoming just 5% better in each of the 10 key areas every 30 days. Making conscious efforts to be a little bit better, just 5% better in each of those 10 key areas over 30 days. If you'd like to know what those 10 key areas are, again, contact myself or one of the Top Gun sales coaches. We'd be happy to send you information on that, because once you know what those 10 key areas are, and we've done this from research, salespeople across 300 different industries over the years, and these are the 10 things that make the difference between high-performing salespeople and the average salesperson. So, yeah, it's making incremental improvements in those key areas. It's setting short-term goals, even goals to do certain things by lunchtime. For example, I will make a certain number of prospecting calls by lunchtime, and be very specific. I will make 16 or I'll make 20 prospecting calls by 12 noon. Not lunchtime, 12 noon. And then when you achieve that, reward yourself. Have lunch. If you don't achieve that, don't reward yourself. Don't have lunch, for example. Seriously. Little rewards during the day to reward yourself for doing what you know you should do. And as Harry so correctly pointed out there before, when we do what we know we should do, we feel terrific. When we don't do what we know we should do, it undermines our self-esteem, it undermines our confidence. Then we start getting into the negative area. So setting those short-term goals, rewarding ourselves for achieving those goals. So by lunchtime, by 5 p.m., Tonight I will write 2 proposals, and reward yourself after you've written those 2 proposals. And until you've written those 2 proposals, after you spend time with your family, done all of those things, get into the proposals and don't do anything else. Don't reward yourself with a coffee, with heaven forbid you should watch television or anything else like that. Just don't do it until you get that done. Become highly disciplined. I think just in wrapping this part up, I'd like to suggest that the average person waits until they feel like doing something before they do it. The above average person does it regardless of how they feel. They've developed that self-discipline to just do it anyway, regardless of how they feel. And once you do what you know you should do, you will then have the good feelings that come from doing something that you know is the right thing to do. So look, Harry, I'm going to wrap up here now. We've just gone a little over 30, 35 minutes, maybe coming up here now. And I thank you for joining us again today with your wisdom of more than close to 30 years in sales, 20 plus years in sales management and in business for yourself for so long. A pleasure working with you again, and of course we'll be seeing each other this week and working together. Often Harry and I don't get together except by video conferencing. Every now and again we get together face to face, but it's the nature of the business. It's the wonderful thing about the way the business works these days. So I will finish this presentation by thanking Harry and thanking everyone who joined us this morning. For those of you who have invited us into your sales meetings, I'll finish by saying to the team, you have a great day and make it a great day. It will be the day that you make it. So go for it. Make it all happen. Bye for now. See you in 2 weeks' time. Bye now.
Bye now.